Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to talk about my top 10 favorite mutants from the X-Men franchise, the film franchise, of course, with New Mutants coming out this week, which I am going to go check out in theaters. I'm very excited about it. It's been, 5 months since I was last in the movie theaters, so it's going to be nice to see a new movie in the theaters where it belongs. Of course, some studios are trying to figure out what works for them best and what doesn't. And it's a tough time right now because I don't even know how any of these movies are going to do in the movie theaters. They could all bomb for all we know. They could make a little bit of money here, but not enough to make an income. And look, every studio has their own strategy, and I'll support them any way they think is the best way. But I have always been a movie going uh, fan. I like the experience of going to the theater, being with an audience who is excited to see these films and wants to have a good time. And New Mutants is hopefully going to be one of those movies. This is a movie that has been long coming, and will any of these mutants stack up to the mutants of the past? We'll see. Now, this is not going to divide any of these. These are villains, heroes, whatever. As long as they're in the X-Men movie franchise, they count. Maybe the top three might be predictable. I don't know, but here we go. Starting with number 10, I have Jean Grey. That's right, Jean Grey is my 10th favorite from the movie franchise. She has been portrayed by two actresses, Make Jensen and Sophie Turner. And look, I think both of them have done a really good job. I am going to admit, though, I have always been disappointed with the character whenever they started going to the Dark Phoenix storyline. Now, I never read the comics, so I don't know how the Dark Phoenix storyline goes in the comic books. But as a movie portrayal, they have been pretty underwhelming. But before that, I do like how the characters are, before they transform into a psychopathic firebird, if you will. That just uses their minds to blow up shit. This is before she turns evil, I guess, is where I actually thought she's okay. She has potential to be a really cool character. She's probably just as powerful as Professor Xavier, but maybe not as powerful. But she could be one day. How they set her up, and she's a cool character. That's pretty much it. I just wish one day we could see why people are so excited when the Dark Phoenix saga is being adapted and why they are so let down when they don't get it right. I want to see what that would be like when they get it right. And I'll know they get it right when the fans are happy and satisfied with how they pull that off. And until then, look, I understand them because 2 times already it's been underwhelming seeing her transition to the Dark Phoenix. So. And then I want to see what happens to her after the Dark Phoenix, because I know she doesn't die completely. Like, she comes back after that. So it's like, so what's that version of her character afterwards going through all that drama? That's a character that I would like to see. And so for now, she still made my top 10. Just unfortunately, she could have potential to go higher if the movies do her justice. And I'm hoping the MCU will give us the Jean Grey, Dark Phoenix, Light Phoenix, whatever, all three of them that we deserve. So, moving on to number 9, I have Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer in X-Men The Last Stand, and then in the newer trilogy, or it's not a trilogy, but Nicholas Hoult plays him later on. And I really like this character of Beast, even though X-Men The Last Stand is one of my least favorite X-Men movies. I did think Kelsey Grammer was one of the good things about that movie, and I would have liked to see more of him, but we got Nicholas Hoult instead, who I thought did a really good job at continuing playing that character in a different way, a younger, he was obviously a more younger Beast, but I thought he played a really good version of a younger interpretation of that character in his own way. He didn't do what Kelsey Grammer did, he was just playing it his own way. And I thought Beast was cool. When he wanted to be tough, he could be tough and beastly-like. But then he's also that nerdy guy that, you can't help but like. So Beast is definitely in my top 10. Moving on to my number 8, I have Colossus. Now, this isn't the Colossus from the first X-Men trilogy and then Return for Days of Future Past. This is the Colossus from Deadpool. I love that version of Colossus. As I want to see that. Well, we're not probably going to see him anymore. We'll see. Maybe this version of Colossus we will see, because I could see him fitting into the MCU perfectly. He has that style of humor that can really work. And I love his interaction with Deadpool, man. I think he's a really cool character, and I hope I like that they keep him metal looking. I don't know if he transforms back and forth in the comics, but I do like the take that Deadpool did with the character. And, if this was before, I'm telling you now, Cyclops did not make my list. If this version of Colossus did not exist, Cyclops would have been in the 10th place, and the other two would have been one notch higher. So, Colossus, I love you, man. Moving on to number 7, I have Storm. That's right, Halle Berry and Alexander Shipp played the character here, and I love both versions of this character. With Halle Berry, I did not feel I liked her interpretation in the beginning. More so when she dropped the accent after the first movie, but I think she really stood out for me when X-Men: The Last Stand came out. Again, she was one of those. Even though it's my least favorite X-Men movie, I think she was one of the good things about that film. And they really made Halle Berry's Storm's character stick out. I really love Alexander Shipp as well. I think she plays a great Storm. I know in like X-Men Dark Phoenix she has little less to do than she did in Apocalypse. But what she got to do, I really liked, and wish we could have gotten more of her, because she could have been a real badass Storm if they gave her more to do and put her more focus on her. Unfortunately. But she still stood out, and Storm still is on my list, so there you go. But that's because it's a combination effort of both Halle Berry and Alexander Shipp. So moving on to number 6, I have Sabertooth. That's right, Sabertooth, not the first Sabertooth. I really like the I was going to say Liv Tyler. Liev Schreiber Sabertooth from X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think, I know a lot of people don't like that one. I think X-Men Origins Wolverine is alright. I think it's better than X-Men The Last Stand. And I think Sabertooth was a great villain in that movie. And wish he would have returned for like the Wolverine or Logan. I know there was rumors that they wanted to get him back for Logan and show him old and retired or whatever in like a garage, and Logan was going to stop by and say, "You," and maybe have a little scuffle, I don't know. But yeah, I really did like his interpretation of that movie and that character, and how I don't know if they're brothers in the comics, but I did like that angle to it, because yeah, the way the movie did it made sense. And I would have loved to see more of him, so oh well. Moving on to number 5, I have Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was played by Alan Cummings in X2, and I believe his name was Cody Smith McPhee, I think. I don't remember now, in the newer trilogy. And I think both actors did a really great job. I thought the younger actor did a great job at playing the younger Nightcrawler, and he clearly must have looked at X2 and to get some inspiration, because he did have some of those mannerisms. But I really did love Alan Cumming. I was sad when they didn't bring him back for X-Men: The Last Stand. I thought, I connected a little bit to his character because of his religious spiritual background. I'm a little spiritual, religious myself, and so it was easy to connect to that aspect about, being a good person and having faith. But he could also be a badass, like especially in X-Men Dark Phoenix, where Nightcrawler was kicking all sorts of asses in that train sequence. I mean, man, that was amazing. So but I wish again a lot of these characters at the bottom. I wish we could have gotten more from them, because I feel like a lot of them are really underutilized. But when they are on screen, especially in X2, I think Nightcrawler really shined. Moving on to number four, I have Professor Xavier. I think Professor Xavier, played both by Sir Patrick Stewart and once again by James. James McAvoy? Why was I stalling on his name? Both of them are tremendous, and it wasn't easy for McAvoy to take over from Patrick Stewart because Patrick Stewart was a fan favorite before the X-Men films even started filming. People wanted him to play Professor Xavier, so to have James McAvoy come in and replace him, it was a surprise how great he was at it. And personally, I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to say two controversial things. Maybe a little controversial. Maybe some people will agree with me. I think James McAvoy was better than Patrick Stewart. I'm just saying. I think he brought a little bit more depth to the role than Patrick. But I love Patrick Stewart. I mean, his best performance of the character was easily Logan. And so both of them really own it in different divisions. One owns it in a more older way, and the other one owns it in a more younger way. So it's two different characters in a way, but I can see how that character eventually becomes the more wiser, older, calmer character one day, and then loses his mind a little bit at the end. Moving on to my third favorite X-Men character, mutant character, whatever you want to call this list, Deadpool. That's right, Deadpool is number 3 for me. Ryan Reynolds owns this role. I really want a Deadpool 3 to happen. Kevin Feige, if you are watching, pay attention to this. Ryan Reynolds is the only person that can play Deadpool right now. And Deadpool can cross over to the MCU if you really want him to. He can break the fourth wall and let the audience know, yes, I'm in the MCU now. Deal with it, and move on. It would be sad if they replaced Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I'm sure they could find somebody, but it would be a completely different personality. Give us one more movie. Finish off that trilogy. Give us the movie that we need. And it would be cool to see Deadpool interacting with the rest of the MCU. You could, adapt the comic book. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, except in this case it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It would be fun. It would be so much fun to see Ryan Reynolds interact with all those characters, the ones that are still around. Or just bring Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans just for fun. Say, hey, you guys are dead and retired. Hey, so is Hugh Jackman. Let's bring him back too. Just for one movie, one Deadpool movie. I'm sure Jackman, Downey Jr. and Chris Evans would be okay to come back for just one Deadpool movie. If you told them, hey, this is for Deadpool, come on, we're just going to have a little bit of fun with you guys being resurrected and becoming Marvel zombies. I just gave you your plot. Go for it. Ryan Reynolds, I love you. You are one of the best actors out there. Plus, you're Canadian like me, so we have something in common. Moving on, I have Magneto at number 2, both played by Sir Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender, and it's very similar to the way I look at Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy. I think I want to call him McCovey for some reason, but McAvoy. Michael Fassbender is my favorite version of Magneto, but I think Ian McKellen needs to get props too because he was the one that started the role, and he's clearly a different age. He's playing Magneto at a different time in his life, and both of them feel threatening and really elevate the scenes when they're there, especially when they get to interact with Professor Xavier's, their counterpart of Professor Xavier. I think Magneto is a complicated villain, and that's what makes great villains for me. Villains that are not really black, but not all the way white. They're gray. They're in the middle. They're someone that when I say black and white, I'm not meaning it as a race thing. I mean tonally, they feel like they could cross either way. You get their point of what they're trying to fight for, but you know that they're going too far with their agenda, and I think that's what makes it a really interesting character, or villain for that matter. Thanos was a little bit like that too. Thanos was a villain that had some great points, but he was taking it too far the wrong way. That it was wrong the way he was taking his agenda. And so that's what I think Magneto is. I think he's up there with some of the great Marvel villains, 100%. And Fassbender, I think, really shows that when you see him struggling, especially in that scene in X-Men Apocalypse. You see when his wife and child is taken away from him, and the pain he has, and he yells at the air, he's talking to God. He's saying, is this what you want from me after he kills all those soldiers? Is this what I am? It's such a heartbreaking scene. I love it, man. Michael Fassbender does a fantastic job. And Ian McKellen is great, too. You can't take away from Ian McKellen. So, moving on to my final... If this isn't obvious, I don't know what is. My favorite X-Men character from these movies, mutant character, James Logan, the Wolverine. That's right, played by the one and only Hugh Jackman. It's going to be hard to top this actor in this role. I think it's a role that people should fear to take on, but it will take a fearless actor to pull it off. And I don't know who will do it one day. It shouldn't be somebody too old. It shouldn't be somebody too young. It needs to be someone, I think, in their maybe late 30s, early, somewhere around the same age that Hugh Jackman was when he got the role. And that way they can play it for another 20 years. But yeah, whoever they get needs to be fearless, because Jackman, every movie that Hugh Jackman does after the first X-Men just continues to get better and better and better. By the time you get to Logan, man, it's the perfect ending for that character that really, I don't blame Hugh Jackman for not wanting to return. I mean, if I had the perfect ending like that for my life, I wouldn't want to return either, So with that being said, guys, that's my list. I hope you share your lists in the comment section below, because everybody's going to have a different list. I'm sure there's some X-Men that you guys like that maybe I didn't have on my list. Maybe Cyclops is in some people's top 5s. Who knows? And there's other characters out there too. These were my top 10 favorite characters. Will some of the New Mutants be some fan favorites? Who knows? It's the last movie from Fox, and I'm gonna at least celebrate it, because I've enjoyed most of the films. I've enjoyed all the films. I'm gonna say that to various degrees. And with that being said, until next time, everybody, take care.